What's good, PENSARE basketball people? We're going to talk trade deadline today and why the Toronto Raptors, yes, the Toronto Raptors, the surging Toronto Raptors, the number one defense over the last 10 games, Toronto Raptors are in the most enviable, best position possible going into this trade deadline. And everything is lining up for a absolutely maddening, totally crazy, keep you up all night type of week ahead. We are less than 3 days away from the Thursday deadline, 3 p.m., and the Toronto Raptors have everything going for them. You may not think the Raptors have everything going for them. Well, let me clarify that. What creates value in a trade negotiation? Flexibility, patience, assets, maneuverability. There's a lot of things that are going right for the Toronto Raptors right now. Now, the dominant conversation around Raptorland right now is tank or playoffs. Tank or playoffs. This is a simplistic way to look at what could be a much, much bigger equation. And so I got to talk about it. Tariq saying, Yo, Rob, I wish you were there for today's panel. It was lit. I would literally just be saying, I told you so, I told you so, I told you so. I would have been so annoying. Don't worry. I'm good. We're going to be on Wednesday on the panel. The Toronto Raptors have expiring contracts attached to actually serviceable players. Just how serviceable, though, might be up for debate because I don't think people understand how good a season Chris Boucher is having. But I would like to put something out into context, okay? Just so we know who the real great player is. De'Aaron Fox, 1.2 box plus minus. Zach LaVine, 1.4 box plus minus. Chris Boucher, 2.7. The box plus minus is not everything, but I want to let you know just how good Chris Boucher has been this year, just in case there's some rival general manager out there being like, Rob, you got me interested about this Canadian from Montreal. Tell me about him. The Raptors are 15-27 when Chris plays. They are 1-6 when he doesn't. Sounds like impact to me. He leads the team in box plus minus. Yes, he is 0.1 ahead of Scottie Barnes. He leads the team in win shares per 48 at 0.148. It is worth noting that the current win share leaders for the Raptors are all bigs: Chris Boucher, Kelly Olynyk, and Jakob Poeltl. And he leads the team in PER, a stat that I don't care about, but because it helps Chris Boucher's trade value right now, I'm going to let you know. 19.6 PER, league average 15. And his 63% true shooting is 89th percentile in the NBA. There are a lot of analytics that love Chris Boucher, and there's a lot of GMs that love analytics. Chris Boucher, Devin Landry saying they put Chris Boucher's 2K rating up to 80 overall. Let's hope some general managers play NBA 2K. 2K has a weird way of messing up people's perception of who's really good and who's not. Let me tell you something. De'Aaron Fox is a clutch client. Now, the narrative around De'Aaron Fox changed so drastically when the Kings started to win 2 years ago that it's almost completely overshadowing all of his weaknesses as a basketball player, right? Now, I got to say, I bought into it too. I was initially pretty low on De'Aaron Fox. I had him as the 22nd or 23rd ranked player on my 25 under 25 list. And everyone thought at the time that I was insane. And I got to tell you right now that I am questioning everything I think about NBA trade value and perceptive value and who's worth what, right? I'm trying to think about this from a logical perspective. How is value created? Value is created through narratives, performance, winning, etc. Right? The Raptors have done a lot of winning over the last 10 games. Some people have been very upset about it. Very upset. They're like, what are we doing to the tank? Yo, what we are doing is giving ourselves the ability to sit on the proverbial fence and really just make a home on that fence, because you don't know between now and Thursday's deadline what deal is going to come your way and which way you're going to have to shift. All right. I got to tell you, there is a world in which the Raptors are buyers at the trade deadline. And because they have put themselves in a position with their 16 wins to pivot towards winning, that could be the right move. It could be the right move. Look, man, I know we all want a top top 5 pick, top 3 pick. Maybe we want the first pick. But in the end, don't you want a good basketball team? Isn't the goal to surround Scottie Barnes with talent? Talent doesn't just come from the draft. It comes through trades. It can come through, a young veteran like a De'Aaron Fox, right? If you'd gotten a De'Aaron Fox, I'm sure some people would be planning in the championship parade. That's the point. Zach LaVine is a very serviceable player. De'Aaron Fox is a really serviceable player. And you know what De'Aaron Fox and Zach LaVine have in common? They're both better basketball players for the next 2 years than Ace Bailey. And if you believe in your heart of hearts that Scottie Barnes is ready to lead a championship roster or, be the best player on an Eastern Conference Finals contender, if you really believe that, if you're the Raptors, I mean, I don't know if you believe that or, who believes that. I certainly believe that. But if you believe that, then you could pivot towards winning. You are logically in position right now. I mean, PC does power rankings every single month. Today, I submitted my power rankings for the NBA. The Raptors have never finished higher than 20 in any of my power rankings. And believe me, I am a big Raptor homer, and I love to put the Raptors as high as I can possibly justify. I've put them as high as 24, 23, 27, depending on how they were playing that week. Today, the Toronto Raptors made 15th or 14th on my rankings. That's how I feel about the Raptors right now. I think that they're playing over the last 10 games like a top 15 team in the league. And the East is weaker than the West. So I technically do believe that right now the Raptors are playing better than the Hawks, better than the Magic, better than a lot of teams in the East, not named the Celtics, the Cavaliers, and probably the Indiana Pacers, and maybe 2 other teams, the Knicks. Okay. So I think the Raptors are good right now. They're good. They're locking up. They just beat the Clippers. They beat the Boston Celtics. This is something that you can use to your advantage right now if you're Masai Ujiri going into these negotiations. But also, it's not just a bluff. It doesn't have to be a bluff. It can be legitimately how you feel because there's justified beliefs. No, there's beliefs. There's wishful thinking. There's beliefs. And then there's justified true beliefs. And the justified true belief right now is the Toronto Raptors are playing really good basketball against a pretty decent number of good teams. We didn't just smoke the Wizards and the Hornets. That's not what happened. That's not how it happened. I don't know if you've been watching the Raptors or if you're one of the handful of Raptor fans that just tuned out, but that's not what's been happening right now. The Raptors are playing really good basketball. They have a lot of young players that are ascending. And that's the kind of cool thing about young rosters is they do tend to get better as the year goes on. If you were to do a litmus test or if you were to do an analysis of who Wemby was at the start of his rookie season to who he was at the end of his rookie season, it's a completely different team. I mean, what do you think? Players just develop during the summer? You don't think Jacoby Walter is a better player today than he was 4 months ago? Of course he's a better player. Grady's a better player. RJ's a better player. Scottie's a better player. These players are getting better. All this development that they did this summer. So if you want to hit restart on your season right now and consider this the start of a new season, say January 1st. I mean, what is this? What every season starts during training camp? Hell no. Hell no. That's when the record starts counting. But what if for the Raptors, 2024 was like one season and 2025 is just a completely different season? So I'm looking at it in that you can go both ways right now. You can go full tank. You can sell everything. You can sell Jakob Poeltl. You can sell Bruce Brown. You can sell Chris Boucher, Kelly Olynyk. You can sell RJ Barrett. You could even sell Emmanuel Quickly if you get enough assets for it. You can stockpile those draft picks and then park them away and use them this summer. You can become like a free-for-all. You can just sell everything. Or you can also trade your flexibility and get real win now pieces at a discount. I'm not talking Jimmy Butler necessarily. I'm not talking Bradley Beal. I'm talking like just good players, like really good players that could be available for the right price. And you could get better. You can choose to get better or worse right now is what I'm saying. You can choose to decide whether or not you want to use all of this flexibility that you've accrued over the last year of managing with this deadline in mind. You can use all the picks, everything to get better right now. Maybe you could make a competitive offer for Trey Murphy. Maybe you could make a competitive offer for Herb Jones. Maybe you could make that kind of offer. Maybe you want to make an offer for a Denny Avdia or a Jeremy Grant to just get better. Maybe you want to look at Anthony Simons. You want to look at some of these teams that are bad right now, and you want to say, you know what? We're going to go the other way. Everyone's offering us a poo-poo platter for our vets. Instead, we'll keep our vets, trade some of the assets, the young assets that we have, and actually just get way better right now because we just think Scottie's that good. You think the San Antonio Spurs are thinking about their draft pick right now? Look, man, I'm going to tell you something that really should ring truer, louder, and frankly, just more present to Canadians, more so now than ever. Negotiations are about leverage. The Raptors have maximum leverage. I'll tell you what else is working for the Raptors. That Luka trade and that Fox trade has opened up everything. Everything. The Lakers need a big. You have 3. You want Dalton Connect and a first round pick and salary filler for Jakob Poeltl because the Lakers desperately want to put a competitive core around Luka and LeBron. Jakob Poeltl helps with that. And you know what? I don't know how many bigs are better than Jakob Poeltl who you can get for that package right now. I'm not saying that's the package, but that's one thing that really helps is that the trade deadline can just be one of those overthinking catastrophes. And for a team that is looking to be the ultimate connector at the trade deadline, what you need right now is volume. The Raptors are not necessarily buyers or sellers. They're market makers. You know where market makers make their profit? Just speaking to the finance crowd here. Market makers make their profit on volume. You're getting a percentage of everything. You're getting a cut. You're getting a commission check for every trade that is made. You are a potential facilitator and a benefactor or a recipient of something. You look at that trade between the Lakers and the Mavericks, and what did the Utah Jazz get? They got 2 second-round picks, and they got a flyer on Jalen Hood-Schifino. Well, guess what? The Raptors could have easily been that team. They could have gotten 2 second-round picks for basically nothing, waived Jalen Hood-Schifino, not picked up his option, or just given him a free trial. Give him a free trial for a couple of weeks. He was a mid-first-round pick that a lot of people in this community were actually pretty happy about and would have actually preferred over Gradey Dick. That's the funny thing. Oh, how quickly the narrative can change. So I think that's a few things working for the Raptors. Number one, they have good contracts that are expiring. They don't have any bad contracts. You can't list one bad contract on the Raptors. Unless you're extremely bearish on Emmanuel Quickley, there's not one bad contract on this team. So there's nothing you have to move. There's not like, oh my God, there's this Bradley Beal, no trade clause, trade kicker contract that's burning a hole in our pockets and we are sunk. No, there's nothing like that. Everything is fair. Everything is good. Everything is reasonable. There's a couple players that are maybe a little bit overpaid, but they're expiring. So who cares? Or they're on short-term deals. So what I'm trying to say is that not only do you have the type of assets that are movable and quite easily digestible for other teams and appealing to other teams because you've exhibited them well in a winning context over the last couple of weeks, i.e. Davion Mitchell starting, Bruce Brown, Chris Boucher, Kelly Olynyk. I mean, everyone has access to the data. When these guys have played, the Raptors have been better. So now you can really sell on how Bruce Brown can help you. A couple of weeks ago, I said, what can Brown do for you? Absolutely nothing. I see was terrible. What can Brown do for you now? I think Brown can do a lot for you now. He can be a connective piece off your bench. And if all it's going to cost you is a, late first round pick and, a contract that you don't really want on your books, like a Kevin Huerter, well, then maybe Bruce Brown actually makes some sense, especially because you have teams like San Antonio. I mean, you want to consider the last 2 deals between Chicago, San Antonio, specifically those 2 teams, but also Dallas and the Los Angeles Lakers. None of those teams have complete rosters right now. None of them. San Antonio, by trading for De'Aaron Fox, have accelerated their timeline. They are suddenly much more receptive to a deal for Bruce Brown, Kelly Olynyk, and Chris Boucher because they help. They help right now. And Jakob Poeltl, by the way, who has familiar roots in San Antonio and would love to go back, would totally be fine playing next to Wemby and would allow Wemby to actually play 4. That would be a great fit in San Antonio. Maybe we can get one of those first round picks back. So what I'm trying to say, just not to dance all over the place here, is the Raptors are in a good place. I'll tell you what else puts the Raptors in a great place. They're a stable organization. They're a world-class organization. They're a very good organization, but they're also very stable. And when it comes to deals, I'll tell you the one team that nobody wants to work with in a deal is a leaky team. A team that cannot keep a secret. You know who can keep a secret? The one team that Shams never knows who they're drafting, that team. The Raptors can keep a secret. They have one of the top tight-lipped organizations in the league. So if you want to bring a third team into a blockbuster involving Jimmy Butler, and the one thing you want to guarantee is that third team is not going to leak it to Shams or Woj, or well, not Woj anymore, but Chris Haynes or someone like that. The Raptors are your bet. The Raptors are your best friend in this situation. Now, should the Raptors be buyers or sellers? Neither. The Raptors should be neither buyers nor sellers. They should be neither facilitators nor benefactors. They need to be vultures. The Raptors need to be opportunistic vultures at the trade deadline. They need to take the best thing available. That best thing might be Brandon Ingram. That best thing might be Dalton Connect. That best thing might be Patrick Williams loaded up with a first-round pick. That best thing is whatever is best for your organization. Because right now, whatever comes into your door, I am willing to bet is going to be better for you than they were at their previous stop. Okay. This is the benefit of having not only a selfless culture in which people really tend to thrive, not only a good place to learn how to play basketball in a system that is conducive to good basketball and winning basketball, not only a place where you have a selfless leader like Scottie Barnes and a caring coach like Darko Rajakovic and a great coaching staff that really puts that time and effort into developing each and every single player. But also, if every single player that comes in the door is an asset, well then how about a little bit of asset rehab while we're at it? If you take on a Brandon Ingram, your medical staff, your training staff, who have been able to work wonders with players like RJ Barrett, are bringing in an all-star level player. A player who was once considered one of the best isolation scorers in the league. A player who has drawn comparisons to a Kevin Durant. Maybe his value is down right now for the same reason that Emmanuel Quickley's value is down right now. He's been a little bit injured and he's on a losing team. But guess what? You buy at a discount, you take the talent, you convert the talent, and then next year, we don't know at the next deadline what Brandon Ingram looks like in this Raptors system. I'm willing to bet, though, that he's going to look great. And if all you had to do to get him was trade away Bruce Brown, Davion Mitchell, and a protected first, you don't do that? Thought we were going to be opportunistic vultures instead of cowards here. This has to be the way we think about the trade deadline. This has to be the way the Raptors think about the trade deadline. Now, the Raptors have always been fascinated with the concept of flexibility. This is a team that loves their flexibility, man. They really love that notion of we could go left, we could go right, we could go north, we could go south. We don't know. You don't know. Unfortunately for the Raptors, they often use that flexibility that they have and they just sit. They just sit. They're too patient. Sometimes they're a little too patient. And then suddenly they get really impulsive and they do something really stupid. I've been pretty critical of the Raptors at the last 3 out of the last 4 deadlines. I've been pretty critical of the Raptors. But I gotta be honest. I haven't really disagreed with anything the Raptors have done for a year almost. Like, there hasn't been any strong disagreement. The last move I can really tell you that I was like vehemently against was probably Jakob Poeltl trade. So this is an organization that seems to be turning a corner towards understanding what the hell they're doing. And I mean, again, you might say that the faces haven't changed. Masai Ujiri didn't just get worse and then just get better. Maybe he just got a little bit more focused. Maybe he did get better. I don't know. Or maybe the moves that they were making previously just weren't working because the culture was so eroded. And now every single move seems like they have the golden touch. Tariq saying, don't forget about Dennis Schroeder, Rob. Dennis Schroeder was a positive asset. The Raptors traded him largely to be nice because he came in to be a starter and they wanted to honor that by letting him be a starter going into a contract year. Had he been in the Toronto Raptors organization, he would have continued to be a backup. The Raptors would have been better off for it. Would have been harder to tank. I think it was a mutually beneficial deal. I think from the Raptors' perspective, Dennis Schroeder was the ultimate example of what it means to be flexible. Dennis Schroeder was a 2-year contract. They knew there would be a market for him if they wanted to get off of him. They didn't have to give up anything to get rid of him. They ate some Spencer Dinwiddie money, no problem. And then they moved on. And by the way, it was that exact same money that they saved that allowed them to make the Davion Mitchell trade. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal at all. I don't think the Dennis Schroeder thing was bad at all. I think what it allowed you to do was have a stable point guard in place in case, one, you decide that you can't get what you want for Pascal and OG and you actually had to re-sign them, and now you want to be there. Number two, in case you couldn't get another point guard like Emmanuel Quickley in a trade for one of those two players, which obviously was your target. And number three, in case the Scottie Barnes at point guard experiment failed miserably and you actually needed something stable there. I don't know, I guess what I'm trying to say is, just observing how this Nico Harrison, Rob Pelinka negotiation went down with the Lakers and the Mavericks. New details emerged today about just what was on the table, how Pelinka was able to walk him down. Do you know why people thought that trade was fake? I've heard a lot of takes on this. I'll give you mine. You know why people thought that trade was fake? Because nobody in their right mind, not the Sunday morning quarterback, not your dumbest basketball fan friend, would have traded Luka Doncic for that price. But what happened is that Nico Harrison developed a case of Rob Babcockitis, okay, in which he started to feel the surging panic of a disgruntled superstar who was eroding his team's precious culture and, not trying enough or not, or mailing it in or drinking too many beers. I don't know what the hell the allegations are right now. And Rob Pelinka was able to use that against him. One thing that not enough people are talking about here? Luka wanted to go to LA. I don't give a shit what Chandler Parsons or anybody says. Dude, I have known for 2 years that Luka has wanted to go to LA, that he's wanted to end up in LA. I don't think the only thing that he's crying about right now is that he didn't want to go to LA like this. Okay? He wanted to sign that Supermax extension and then force his way out to LA. That would have been the move. Luka was always going to end up in LA. I'm sorry. It's just like I have too many data points to tell you otherwise. He was not staying in Dallas. He wanted to be in LA. So the Mavericks decided to get out of it ahead. You know what the Lakers just saved? They saved millions of dollars because now they don't have to actually pay that Supermax. Because Luka will actually sign at a discount now. This is why when you think about the negotiation was supposed to include Dalton Connect and the 2031 first round pick, and somehow Rob Pelinka was able to walk Nico Harrison down and say, hey, we're concerned about his weight and his drinking. We're hearing all sorts of stuff about this, et cetera, et cetera. And the problem is now you're fucked. Let me tell you why you're fucked if you're Nico Harrison. And hopefully it'll be a nice little reminder in terms of how not to negotiate a deal. Nico Harrison walked in with tunnel vision. He wanted one of two players in the entire league to pair with Kyrie Irving. Those two players were Giannis Antetokounmpo and Anthony Davis. Immediately, you have messed up right away because you have limited your pot to two players, which means the two teams have more power over you. You're not willing to walk away from this. Number two, you close the door on the idea. You start to burn your bridges with Luka behind the scenes. This has been eroding for a couple of weeks now. You burn the bridges with Luka, and now it's a really getting to be a weird situation now where he's feeling unwanted. He's feeling like he might be being shopped, and I'm sure he was aware of this. His camp was certainly, Bill Duffy, his dad, etc. The people that are close to him certainly started to feel tension and weirdness around Dallas over the last couple of weeks. And then the third thing is you want to keep the secret. You want to keep this a secret. And of course, Rob Pelinka and Nico Harrison have a great relationship, so I'm sure they trust each other. But if this thing ends up really poorly and it falls apart, who's to say this does not leak somehow? And now everybody knows you tried to trade Luka to the Mavericks, and now everybody knows that he was available. And now it's like your fans know that you tried to trade him, et cetera, et cetera. So it's almost like they started to fall for this. And once Giannis was off the table, Anthony Davis became your only door, which means that the Lakers, who probably would have given you everything, a GM who was randomly polled off the record said, asked, what would you have given up for Luka Doncic? And he said literally everything, everything. You have no idea what this player is worth, because right now, what ESPN and Fox News and all these people are systematically trying to do is destroy his trade value. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Rob Babcock coming out and saying Vince Carter was leaking plays to the other team, and Vince Carter wanted to quit, and Vince Carter wasn't trying hard, and Vince Carter whatever. Like, it's the same thing. Yo, you made a bad deal. The Vince Carter deal is a bad deal. The Luka Doncic deal is worse. It's worse. Actually, I don't know if it's worse. They're both really bad. They're both really bad. But Vince was not a 25-year-old top 3 player. So somehow this is worse. What you need to do when you're going to a negotiation table is you must have the power to walk away. You must plan your exit before you enter. What is the first thing they tell you when you walk into a tunnel? Find your exit. You must know what to do in case it caves in. The Dallas Mavericks had no exit strategy. They had no contingency plan. The Raptors have million contingency plans. Maybe they have too many options, but the Raptors can hold pat. There's nothing wrong with just holding Bruce Brown, holding Chris Boucher, holding Kelly Olynyk, holding Davion Mitchell, and making this decision in the offseason. They can do that. The Raptors can sell them. They're not a playoff team with a superstar who's demanding that they make moves now or he'll demand out. No, Scottie Barnes is locked in for the next 6 years. He's not going anywhere. So you have that flexibility. But also, just in case teams are like, we know you have to sell and you're the stupid, terrible team up in Toronto that nobody wants to sign with. And, we're not going to give you anything but a second round pick for Chris Boucher. Take it or leave it. Well, now the market and you have coincided to create the perfect situation for your assets, because not only are your assets playing well, not only is there a lot of volume, right? Volume of trades, your facilitator helps, right? If the squeaky, what am I going to say? The squeaky wheel is greased or whatever. You're the grease. You're the grease is what I'm trying to say. You're the grease, man. So the Raptors are the grease. They can grease every single deal. They can add Chris Boucher. They can subtract the player. They can take salaries. They can do everything. They can be involved in everything. But the important thing is they don't have to be. They can choose to walk away. You're not giving me what I want for Chris Boucher. Fuck you, man. 2.7 boxes minus. Fuck you. Get out. He's playing well. We're like basically undefeated over the last month without him. So, okay, fine, or with him. So great. He's a really good player. We want to keep him now. Put it out there. Put it out there. We want to keep him. We want to keep Chris Boucher. We want to sign him to a long-term deal. We want to keep Kelly Olynyk. He's a great veteran. Every single team out there needs these players. There's so many teams out there that need these players. And all of these teams that just made a deal, except for the Mavericks, they need these players because now they have roster imbalances all over the place. I believe you are in the best position possible to get that 2031 Lakers pick if they choose to move it. There just aren't a lot of players out there who make $11 million, are expiring, and are as good as Chris Boucher. There just aren't. The most important thing to realize as a fan right now is be cool with both outcomes, or no outcomes, or either outcome. What you don't want to be cool with is selling in a panic, buying on a panic, leveraging the future for, a flyer on a what if, right? If Brandon Ingram is traded to the Raptors, I guarantee you there's going to be a segment of this fan that's going to be like, oh my God, bye-bye Cooper Flagg. Cooper Flagg was always going to be a long shot anyways. You just got a former second overall pick who's a former all-star who, really likes Toronto and pretty much plugs in the one hole on your roster, which is, isolation scoring, and is going to start in place of Gradey Dick, your weakest starter. Congratulations. You actually have a chance to go out and beat the Indiana Pacers in a playoff series right now. Right? It's not about mid, man. Daniel Franklin, salute to you, man. I'm cool with the Raptors being mid. Here's the thing. There's different types of mid. The San Antonio Spurs right now are mid. But you know why their mid is so exciting? Because they have a franchise level talent at the center spot and they're actually playing their young players. The Chicago Bulls are also mid. You know why their mid sucks? Because they don't have that piece. The important thing to realize is you need to pay attention to Masai Ujiri's words. I'm not saying he's the most truthful guy. He's definitely a little bit duplicitous and a little bit deceptive sometimes with how he speaks, but he speaks from the heart and he generally lets you know how he actually feels. And how he actually feels right now is that the Raptors already have their guy, and that's Scottie Barnes. They believe that this dude is going to be one of the best players in the league. They believe that. You may not see Scottie Barnes like Paolo. You may not see Scottie Barnes like a Wemby. You may not see Scottie Barnes like a Shea Gilgeous-Alexander or Giannis Antetokounmpo or Luka Doncic, but they do. His coach does. And shit, I do too. So once you have that guy, I'm not saying you can't use Cooper Flagg or an Ace Bailey or Dylan Harper. For sure you can. So could the Spurs. But that is not your organizational focus right now. Your focus is winning championships with this guy. And that could be done through a multitude of things. It can be done through buying on a low asset like Brandon Ingram because another team is desperate to trade him. It could be through, and yeah, it might mean you have to give up a first round pick. But let me tell you what is exciting me so much about this team right now. Jacoby Walter. Sounds really stupid, you know, to say that when you look at his analytics profile and you really think about like what am I really excited about right now? Dude, I trust my eyes, bro. I do. I trust my eyes with this kid. And I'm telling you, I know a lot about him. Gotten to know a lot about this dude. Trust me when I tell you this kid is going to work out. Like, I'm not saying he's Stephon Castle. I'm not saying that. Stephon Castle might be just a tier above. But I would bet so much that when we do a redraft of this draft, like 3 years from now, it will be a foregone conclusion, if not a no-brainer, that he should have gone like top 7 in this draft. I think this guy's really good. And I'm telling you, he's getting better. And he wants it. Like, he is so, I don't say this without getting in trouble. He's locked in. He is locked in. And this guy has like that same, again, when you know it, you know it. I've seen it with Scottie Barnes. When Scottie Barnes spoke in his first year, prior to his first year, told you about his dreams. He showed you his process. He gave you a little bit of a window into what was moving him forward. Yeah, I've seen that window with Ulrich. I've seen that window with Jacoby. I've seen that window with Jonathan Mobo. I've seen that window with these young players, man. If you're worried that, oh my God, getting Brandon Ingram is going to cost us a 2026 first round pick from Indiana. No, I don't care about that. Because what you're trying to do right now, don't get lost in the weeds. The most directionless, stupid people in the world, they have 85 different objectives and they have no idea where the hell they're aiming. The most clear way to do this is to just say, you need to have a compass, man. You need to aim at something. What are you aiming at? What are you aiming at? You're aiming at building a championship roster around Scottie Barnes. That should be the only thing that you're thinking about right now. How can we put together a substantially better roster around this guy and utilize his numerous skills? Now, I want to be clear about something. When you look at the analytics of a particular player, they're not just exemplifying or showing you how good that player is. They're showing you the context of what that player is doing within the framework of what the team is doing. I think Scottie Barnes, next to a handful of players across this league, including a Zach LaVine, including a Lauri Markkanen, including a Brandon Ingram, would be so much better. So much better. So you may not see him like a superstar because he's not really in a superstar context right now. But give him that one extra piece and you might start to feel very differently about it in a couple months. especially going into the playoffs. This is a team that's locked in. This is a team that's connected right now. Tearing it apart, whatever. I'm not going to be super sentimental about it. I'm not going to cry, if Jakob Poeltl is traded or Kelly Olynyk is traded, whatever. The deal is the deal. And I'm certainly not going to cry if Emmanuel Quickley or RJ Barrett are going out for a star and, we're including some younger assets or whatever. For me, the three players that I'm not willing to talk about right now, okay, ring ring, I'm Masai Ujiri right now, so you're gonna have to pretend that I have about 100% more charisma and a lot more swagger, and that I'm just like way better dressed than I usually am. So let's just pretend I'm Masai Ujiri for a second, and I got a call. Gradey Dick. We want Gradey Dick. Okay, you're gonna have to give me a lot. I'm not really willing to talk about this guy, but you want to talk about him, you're going to have to start with at least 2 first-round picks and maybe a sweetener and a young player, and they're going to have to be really good first-round picks. Jacoby Walter, same deal. I view them the same. I view Jacoby and Gradey the exact same, and that's the crazy part. I don't think most people in Toronto do. I do. Scottie Barnes, click, call me again. I block your number. Call me one more time. I honestly will walk to your house and smack you in the face. Don't call me about Scottie Barnes. That's not happening. Everybody else, we can talk about it. Everybody else, we can talk. If you are telling me right now that a franchise level player or a borderline, 3-4 time all-star, whatever, that's getting a little too expensive for you is available for Emmanuel Quickley, one young player, and a couple of my picks, I will talk to you. I will talk to you. Nope. I trade Scottie for nobody. Just to be clear about that. Nobody. I will not trade him for anybody. I know that's not rational. I know that Wemby is worth more. I understand that Shea is worth more. I wouldn't trade him for anybody right now. I believe what I believe. Maybe I'm stupid. I don't know. I would not trade him. That's you. You would trade Scottie Barnes for a 17-year-old. That's perfectly fine. That's cool. Some people would. I'm sure the majority of NBA media polled would probably agree with you. I'm not one of those people. I believe this guy is going to be a top 5 to top 10 player. I think he's going to be a culture builder. I think he's the type of player you don't trade. Me personally, if I'm Nico Harrison, I will fire myself before I trade Luka Doncic. There's certain talents you don't trade in this world. Right? What? You wouldn't trade him for Jokic? No. Respectfully, no. Scottie makes less. Scottie's a better defender. Jokic is a way better player. Yes, I know that. Look, I'm not saying Jokic is not a better player than Scottie. Of course I know Jokic is a better player than Scottie. Scottie knows Jokic is a better player than him. I think his trainer would agree with that. Literally, if I found someone that right now tried to tell me that Scottie Barnes was a better player than Nikola Jokic, I would smack them in the head too. That's stupid. But there's a difference between this guy's better and I would actually trade for him. Context is totally different. Totally different. I'm sorry. Look, man, there's certain players you just don't trade. If I'm the Spurs, I'm not trading Wemby for anybody. You can offer me 100 first-round picks. I'm not trading him. Look, man, there's 5 spots on an NBA court. You're not selling me on 16 first-round picks because I only got 5 spots on the NBA court. And when I go for that championship, this one dude, right, is on the court, and he's my anchor. And I don't see anybody who's worth me losing that. Wemby for, I'm not trading. Hey, if I'm OKC, I'm not trading Shea either. There's some players that just don't get moved. That's life. Unless they ask out, they're not getting moved. Michael Jordan was never getting moved unless he asked out. Okay, Giannis is not getting moved until he asks out. That's just it. Okay. Oak Tree saying Jokic is already top 10 on the GOAT ladder. Great. If you can turn back the hands of time and get Jokic at 23, maybe we can talk about that. But Jokic is 30, and we don't know. I'm looking at the next 10 years in Toronto with Scottie Barnes running my team, running my organization, winning championships, and I'm saying I'm not trading those 10 years for anything. That's where I'm at. But the Raptors have all of these pieces that can be appetizing for other teams. Also, Shout outs to the 40 of you. 400 of you. 401 of you. The 401. Okay. Wemby may not like Canada. Wemby loves Canada. Wemby loves Canada. I can assure you that, like, Wemby's cool with Canada. Yeah. He's like, yeah. Why do you think I wanted him so badly 2 years ago? You remember the tank world order, tank for Wemby? My God, we need to get this guy. Yes, it's because, yes, this is the right market for him. Canada would have been the right market for Wemby. Now you can go hold that L, Masai Ujiri, but please don't do that again. But yes. French connection. Anyways, this is where I'm at right now. I think the Raptors have the most interesting position in the league. They're not bad like Charlotte. They're not bad like Washington. They're not bad like, especially in consideration to, when I say bad, I'm not saying bad in a vacuum. I'm saying bad relative to the field that they're directly in competition with. Right now, who are the Raptors in contention with for that play-in spot? Chicago, not scared, selling. They're falling down. They just traded Zach LaVine. They're looking to move all of their winning pieces and looking to tank. Okay, cool. Atlanta, losers upon losers. I have no idea what's going on right now with Atlanta and Detroit. That game was, pretty deadlocked going into the fourth quarter. We'll see what happens there. Detroit, not scared, not moved. If I faced, if I had to, have the Raptors with some reinforcements, maybe a Brandon Ingram, face off against the Detroit Pistons in a one-game winner takes all play-in, I'm good with that. Yeah, I'm good with that. I'm perfectly comfortable with that. Don't worry. Philly, I'm supposed to be scared of Philly right now. The way Paul George is going, I'm not scared. I'm not scared. I'm not scared of any of these teams. It's totally different than being in the West, man. The Portland Trailblazers have played reasonably good basketball, and they have no chance of actually competing in the play-in. They're so far behind. You got to look at these teams. If you're the Raptors right now, you're a young roster, dude, you can totally sell the fan base, right? You can totally sell everybody on this idea that we want the experience. We understand the draft pick implications, but we didn't believe, I'm just trying to get ahead of the Masai Ujiri, Bobby Webster presser before it happens. We believed that this was the right move. We believe that this helps Scottie Barnes. We believe that this will help us get to the play-in. We believe that we are playing really good basketball right now. We think it's right in distance right now, and we think that getting there starts the clock on moving towards our ultimate goal, which is winning a championship. That is a coherent thought that makes a lot of sense to me. Additionally, alternatively, we felt it was very necessary, given the projection and where we are right now, how much we've lost already, that we felt trading Jakob Poeltl to open up some of the minutes for our younger players and getting some good future assets made sense for us. Do you see what I mean? Be honest with yourselves. Right now, look at the Chicago Bulls roster and tell me if they can justify a buy now move. Not really. Could the Wizards justify trading for Jimmy Butler right now? No. Could the Raptors? Yes, the Raptors could. In theory, the Raptors could. They could say, damn, we think that we can put a better team around Jimmy Butler right now than the Miami Heat did when they went to the finals. So we think that this is our Cinderella path from 8th seed to the finals. We're going to do it again with Jimmy. Boom. And he's in a contract year, so he's going to be on his best behavior, and then we'll deal with the consequences after. Look, I'm not saying trade for Jimmy Butler. I'm not saying trade for Brandon Ingram. I'm saying that because of where you are right now in the standings, because of where the East is, because of the bevy of assets that you hold, and because of where the rest of the league is, you are in an enviable position where you can realistically go either way. And I am convinced at this point. Look, I've been watching this team all year. They have ran out some of the most bullshit, stupid lineups, crazy schemes. And I've been saying it all year. This team is not designed to win. They didn't use their mid-level. They're playing a whole bunch of rookies. Have you noticed? Have you noticed that there's like one rookie playing right now instead of 5, 4 every night? Have you noticed that suddenly these players who were out with these phantom illnesses and injuries and nursing this injury and that injury are suddenly playing and playing really well? And oh, by the way, being put into context, like playing how they are supposed to be played, not how you want to play them for some hypothetical development pipeline, but actually like putting the ball in Bruce Brown's hands is making him more effective. Actually, putting players in positions to be good defensively, like putting Scottie lower in the defense. Oh, yeah, analytically, that has proven to work like year over year, and suddenly it's working again. Okay, cool. And now you're ramping up Emmanuel quickly, and he's looking better and better. And now you can really, really sell yourself on the idea that you basically just acquiring Emmanuel quickly all over again, aren't you? Because let me tell you something. There's something weird that happens when a player sits on your team for a long enough period of time is you sort of start to devalue them somehow. Emmanuel quickly, Knicks fans are till this day crying about Emmanuel quickly. I mean, they're pretty happy with OG Anunoby, absolutely. But I have Knicks fans in my family that are still like, I can't believe we let quickly go. When you see this guy in games that matter, in a context that makes sense for him, you're gonna actually be like, whoa, maybe I understand why the Raptors gave this guy $32 million. He could splash like that. He could do pull up logo threes like that. And now he can pass too. That was the big weakness coming into Toronto. Do you see the dimes last game? Looks like a competent point guard. Quickly or Brunson? Brunson, 100%. I'm not putting him in Brunson conversations. I'm just saying, like, whatever gap you think there exists between Quickly and Fox, it's probably not as big as you think it is. Like, it's big, but it's not like huge. The marketing around them is so different, though. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, how De'Aaron Fox is marketed is that there's actually some sort of logical way to debate Fox versus Sabonis. There isn't. There isn't really. Okay. And I'm just learning, covering the league and watching the league, as a fan, but now getting a little bit more into the nitty gritty of it, just how much the marketing, the agents, the conversation, the people who cover the league change the narrative around these players. Paolo Banchero has been playing like ass. Cade Cunningham played like ass for the last 3 years. The marketing around these players and how they're perceived around the league is just so high that it is completely divorced from the numbers, from the reality, from the winning, from everything. And with Emmanuel Quickly and Chris Boucher and guys like this, guys who have maybe been later picks or undrafted guys, they didn't get all the hype. There's just less of an appeal to market them as more than they are. You know what I mean? It's important to realize that perception is not reality. It's a it's a side effect of reality. It's a part of reality, but it's not reality. Because in the end, if you're marketed like a winning player, but you're ineffective, inefficient, and you don't help winning, well, trading for you is not going to actually help me win a championship. Marc Gasol may have had a reputation as, not a star center, but he certainly impacted the game like a star center, right? So I look at players and I'm like, identify where the narrative is divorced from the reality. Right now, I look at a player like a Patrick Williams, Scoot Henderson, Jabari Smith. I'm seeing high lottery guys who maybe if the Raptors believe they can turn around their careers. Now, Scoot Henderson, y'all know I made a video about Scoot Henderson right when he was tanking his value and really looking horrible for the Blazers, like 4 or 5 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago, whatever. And then I made the video, and then 3 days later, suddenly he started to turn a corner, and now it's like, okay, oh, we see the vision. Scoot Henderson's good. Okay, cool. But that's my point. Find that guy. Find the guy who's in the wrong situation. Find the guy whose value is just taking a beating. Find the guy where, you know what the Raptors need to do right now? the Raptors need to do a Vince Carter trade in reverse. The Raptors need to find that player whose reputation, image, whatever, has just taken a beating. Look at how the Raptors got Kawhi. Do you understand the seismic difference and the gap between Kawhi Leonard and DeMar DeRozan? Like, it is so big. But because of everything that Kawhi had done, because of the injuries, because of his demands to go to LA, he had basically taken his value and shrunken it down by like 70%, 60%. You know what a fully healthy Kawhi Leonard would have gone for? The Raptors would have had to give up DeMar DeRozan and like 18 picks. The gap is so large between these two players. And oh, by the way, Kawhi was also the younger player. Yo, what are we doing here? So, Terrence Popovich, this is exactly what I mean. So, I think you said Ochai was such a good find. Someone said Ochai was such a good find. There's a lot of comments right now. But somebody said Ochai was such a good find. Yes. Ochai is a good example, right? When you have a player that is an ex-lottery pick and their fan base and the media perceive them as a player who hasn't exactly lived up to the billing as an ex-lottery pick, but you see a role for that player on your team that could really maximize them. Maybe that means converting them from a third stringer to a second stringer, or a second stringer to a starter, or changing their position. Maybe you see a small forward out there who's better off as a power forward and he's just not being used correctly. This is what scouting is about. Scouting is not just, it's not just about, oh yeah, we're scouting draft prospects in Europe. Like, no, man, you got to scout the league. You got to look around the league. You got to see who's not being utilized properly. That's how you find the Dražen Petrovićs of the world. That's how you find the Jermaine O'Neals. That's how you find these guys, is you find something that other people are not looking at, other people are not seeing correctly, and saying, I can turn it into something better. That's what the Raptors did with Immanuel Quickley. And it hasn't necessarily worked out exactly how they would have hoped, but I think it will. Because, again, if you see Immanuel Quickley as a spark plug, guard off the bench, a la Lou Williams with a little bit more defensive pop, then I think the Raptors saw a player who could mirror the impact of a sub-all-star guard as a starter. A player who maybe didn't have the greatest vision as a playmaker, but could be taught to become a better playmaker. A player who maybe didn't finish as well around the basket and didn't put as much pressure on the rim, but a player who could be expanded in that situation. It's the same thing they've done every step of the way. So it's about having the vision, having the commitment and the stick-to-itiveness to, or the see-through, or whatever you want to call it, the courage, okay, to make the deal, but also it also comes down to really having the ability to walk away. Now, I want to be clear about something. Yesterday, I made a lot of news made a lot of waves on social media because of a post that I made asking for Raptor fans to not boo the national anthem. And I've had a lot of time to think about that today. And that is right here. The post is up there for you to view if you want to read it. But I want to just say one thing in light of the news that Canada has quote unquote caved. I don't think Canada caved necessarily, but $1.3 billion being committed by Justin Trudeau, et cetera. This is not a political podcast, and I'm not trying to give you political advice. What I want to do is I sat heavy on this. I sat on my heart. I thought about it. I'm like, do I want to address this? Do I not want to address this? Because I got a lot of backlash for this. Basically, there's like 30 quote retweets, and they're all basically telling me I'm an asshole. So I want to be clear about something when I say this, okay? I've talked with a lot of people who have much more knowledge than me today about, politics and what Canada's doing and all that stuff. But I just want to mention this briefly. I promise I won't take too much of your time, but this is worth saying, okay? There's an old saying that my grandfather used to say that said, once blood is spilt on the soil, it takes 6 generations to wipe away. Be careful when you're booing people's national anthems. And be clear about something. Be careful. You may feel like it's a patriotic act. I think the patriotic act is what I'm doing with the Frenches and what I'm doing saying Canada first and I want to buy Canadian. This is what I believe is the patriotic act. When I saw Ryan Russillo's post today, red-blooded American Ryan Russillo, okay, hates Canada, Ryan Russillo. Don't at me. I know how he feels about Canada based on how he talks about everything to do with the Raptors. I get it. There's some Americans just cannot stand the concept that Canada has an NBA team. We are an outlier. We here are an outlier. We have a world of complications that other NBA teams do not face. A person like Donald Trump feeds off of division and hatred. What he does is he announces sensationalist plans. Mexicans are drug dealers and RAP word. Uh, you know, this person is this person is that. And what he wants to happen is he wants to, as the face of America, he wants all of those people in China or Russia or wherever, Europe, Canada, Mexico, shithole countries in Africa. He wants all of those people to start hating America. And then what he wants to do is he wants to fight back as the strong man. Y'all may not come from countries with dictators. I do. My childhood as a child born in Yugoslavia, believe me, I've seen plenty of dictators and I know what dictators act like. This is what dictators act like. Okay? And what they do is they say things to piss people off so that the pissed off people or scare people too. These people are taking your jobs. These people are taking your economy. These people are ruining your culture. These people are hurting people. These people are bringing fentanyl in, blah, blah, blah. Okay. When you're afraid, you make stupid decisions. Don't be stupid. Booing the national anthem does nothing. It's a stain on our faces. The reason that I say this is because if you understand how Americans feel about this dude, trust me when I say this, most of them don't like him. Most of my family hates him. Most people in this world who have a common sense about them have either absolutely voted against him in 2 out of the last 3 elections, three of the last 3 election cycles, or have voted for him out of panic and misinformation. You must let people figure out who this guy is. Let me tell you what's not going to help. When you boo the American national anthem or take a video of yourself burning the American flag or start writing anti-American rhetoric, what he has is ammunition for his hate machine, okay? His hate machine, which says, this is why we don't want to work with Canada. They hate us. Now, of course, you'll say, we don't hate you, we hate you. But he's making it so that you don't have a choice in how he spins your little message. Because let me tell you something right now. Let's just say right now that you saw an image, okay, of people in Russia spitting on Canadian flags en masse and booing the Canadian national anthem. How comfortable are you going to Russia as a Canadian? Not very. Do you know how much tourism comes from America to Canada? You know how many friendships there are between Americans and Canadians? You know how many players on your team and how many future players of your team are going to play? Every single person in that building that heard that American national anthem being booed is never going to forget it because it's probably the first time in their lives listening to that anthem that they've ever heard it booed. And they're not going to forget that. You might say, no, they'll understand. It's because of the tariffs. It's because we hate Trump. You know what the most fucked up part about this is? Those NBA players that are sitting there, yeah, by the way, 80% of your team, your Toronto Raptors team, is American. 90% of the Clippers who were there are also American. Those people hearing that American national anthem being booed, that 15-year-old singing in front of 20,000 people, hearing herself being booed, you thinking that you're venting some sort of fucking frustration here, let me tell you what you've done. What you've done is you have given the right wing in America an entire day worth of content of look at how Raptor fans feel about us. Do you know what the consequences of that one stupid action are going to be? Every single time this Raptors team goes into an American arena this year, and believe me, they're going to go plenty of times, there's going to be some segment of the fan base there that is going to boo the Canadian national anthem. And these players are going to be put into a position where their country is against their team. And that's a really weird place to be as an American athlete trying to embrace Canada. This is backwards. We don't want to go this way. Trust me when I say that. You don't want to go this way because if you are afraid, if you are genuinely afraid for your livelihood, I've seen a lot of people panicking and stressing. You are falling for the bullshit that is being pushed down your throats by not only their politicians, but by your politicians. Let me give you a reality check. If your fear is military action or invasion of Canada, you're dumb. This is not an easy country to invade. I don't want to tempt fate when I say that. This is one of the hardest countries in the world to invade. Canada has allies. Canada has friends. Canada has a military. We are not some bullshit nation. To the people who have put out the misinformation on X, the greatest news network on earth, that Canada is about to become a third world country because of these tariffs, relax. No, it's not. You can open up new trade agreements with other countries. It's just painful in the short term, but it might be beneficial in the long term. These tariffs, which have now been paused for the next 30 days, as Canada works to strengthen the border because of the 100 grams or 100 pounds of fentanyl that came over and the handful of illegals. All of that being said, I think whether you are, this is not a partisan, message, whether you are left wing, right wing, Trudeau, pro Polyev, whatever, whoever side you're on, I think we can all agree on one thing. North America has not handled post-COVID times really well. I think we can all agree that both leaderships, whether it be Biden, whether it be Trump, whether it be Trudeau, whether it be the conservatives, all have a little bit of mud on their face for mishandling this entire thing. I think we can all agree that Canada's economy used to be a lot stronger than it is right now. I think we can all agree that Canada has places to improve, not only in terms of immigration screening. This is not a racist rhetoric. This is a practical rhetoric on how immigration needs to work in this country. And I believe that sitting in the middle of this, as I often do when it comes to political stuff, because I am not extreme on any side when it comes to politics, I am not pro, against, whatever. I'm just trying to be common sense about this. What I'm trying to say is that when people mess up, the one thing they want to do is they want to channel all of the frustration and all of the pain and all of the fear that you have, you at home, reading your grocery bill and freaking out and say it's their fault. It's the tariffs. Fuck you, man. I've been paying more for chicken and bread and whatever and Pringles for the last 3 years. What the hell? He wasn't even in office. Okay? So the truth of the matter, and I'm saying this passionately and truly, is that false consciousness is what is happening here. Americans are in pain right now. Okay? You want to feel your pain? Feel their pain. I will promise you the stories that I've heard about Americans during the pandemic, their government handled it much more poorly than our government. They suffered a lot. Their government was disastrous, and that is the Trump government. They were disastrous, and the fallout of it has been a tremendous amount of pain for American families. Those people in pain elected a person who seemed to be like, I got the solution, in panic. Those people are vulnerable right now. And oh, by the way, they're kind of stupid too, because the education system has basically been systematically designed to make you a zombie and not to really teach you how to think for yourself. So, what I'm trying to tell you, as a person with all these fucking books behind me, who's been trying to read about how dictatorships work and who watched a dictator in my own country turn everybody against each other to the point where thousands and millions of people died needlessly, to the point where people still hate each other to this day. Don't start this. Don't hate them. Don't hate them. Don't hate anybody. I'm going to be honest. Don't hate anybody. And if you think hating someone is your protest, Your protest is wrong because every single dictator feeds off of your hate. Every one of them. You want to go to World War I Germany? You want to feel the economic crisis? You want to feel everything? You know what that entire thing bubbled up into? Go pick up a fucking history book. Okay? Populist leaders like Donald Trump speak to the lowest common denominator and then try to brainwash everybody else. They build consensus through fear mongering, through division. I shudder to think what an American hearing Canadians, the nicest people in the world, the kindest neighbors in the world, booing their national anthem felt. You didn't convert anybody. The people who walked in hating Trump before your boos still hate Trump. They don't hate him any more or less. The people who walked in supporting him, though, support him more now. And you know what's crazy? The fringes are in control right now, man. One of the most powerful countries in the world is being run by lunatics. And these people are willing to say whatever it takes to galvanize their base and to freak people out. Okay? This is how fascist dictators start. I know that I'm going to lose like 100 subscribers for talking about this, but bro, this has been bubbling at the bottom of my chest here. This is why we started PENSARE Basketball, not to talk about politics, but to be a megaphone for an important message. And my important message, my passionate message to you is don't become the people who you hate. You know, I said it yesterday. I'll say it for those of you who didn't hear it. The one reason that most of the world hates Americans is because they do shitty things like boo other people's national anthems. Okay? We came to this country because this is a great country. Supporting this country means buying from this country, building up this country, becoming great in this country. It means raising your kids to be good people, good citizens, to vote, to have a democratic right, to put people in power who are not terrible for your country. This is what a democracy is. This is what, at least in theory, what Canada should be. Canada is good for the world, okay? And we don't want to become everything we hate, okay? That's all I'm trying to tell you. Don't fall into the fear mongering of it. Because the only way fear wins is if you convert into someone that you're not. The number of conversations that I heard today, I went out today. I'm going to tell you all the truth. I went out today because I wanted to see a venue for the Pendance Film Festival. We're doing a closing gala for pass holders and filmmakers. So I went out, and I don't often travel on the subway, but I figured it would be easier than cutting through traffic and all that stuff during the middle of the day. I heard at least 4 openly, humiliatingly racist conversations being talked like megaphone level loud on the subway about immigrants, about so many things. And I'm just like, in my head, I'm like, man, a younger version of me would be screaming at these people right now, but the older version of me just doesn't fucking care. And I just want to write my emails. But I couldn't believe how loud it was. And then I went to the brewery and had this very long discussion about what if America invades Canada. And then I got into a Tesla with my friend. And then we were talking about Elon Musk and how he could potentially control the cars. This is such a dystopian, messed up world, man. Look, Donald Trump is, I want to say 100 years old off memory. I'm assuming he's like 107, 112. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. Point is, he is not forever. He will be here for 4 years if he doesn't somehow get removed before that or impeached or whatever because of some stupid thing he does. Okay? The people that he is leading, unfortunately, they will be here. The more you hate them, the kids, the children, there's a child out there who's 13 years old right now. I want you to think about that child. 13-year-old Hooper, okay? He's 13 years old. Y'all remember Steve Francis not wanting to come to Canada, right? Y'all remember that? Y'all remember the last time you heard a prospect doesn't want to come to Canada? Haven't heard in a long time, right? Okay. I want you to imagine there's a 13-year-old kid out there who's a basketball prodigy, and the first thing he saw today was Ryan Russillo's post, and there's a whole bunch of Canadians who are booing the national anthem, the American national anthem. That is a kid who is going to remember that. These early memories matter. And that kid is going to grow up thinking Canada doesn't like America. Nobody that I know has ever in all of America, I've never really known anybody who thought Canada doesn't like America. I think I've known people who didn't like Canada, but I've never really known anyone who didn't think, oh, I'm not welcome there. I would be booed there. I would be not safe there because I'm American. This is not a weak message. This is a strong message. You think that when someone slaps you in the face, the strong thing is to slap them back. This is not true, actually. The strong thing is to actually walk away. The weak thing is to retaliate, scream, and go to jail. Okay? You think, like when I'm going to tell you, this is a very temperamental teenager. If someone if you, oh, oh my God, if you stepped on my shoe when I was 15 to 16 years old, I am ready to throw hands with you. I am ready to punch your lights out and probably get shot or stabbed in the process because I am that insecure and probably that misguided and that stupid and that angry that I don't really know how to process that situation other than to do what I'm about to do. As a 36, 37-year-old, I understand that the worst thing I can do in that moment is to react with anger. It's the weakest thing. It's something that we are really misguided on as children is to think that the strongest thing you can do is punch back. No. If you are absolutely okay, yo, as much as I say it's impossible to invade Canada, let's just say that's the shit that happens. Okay, now all bets are off. All right, let's put down your books, put down your jobs, pick up some arms, and get ready to defend the shit out of this country. Okay, that shit ain't happening though. I'm gonna tell you that right now. I mean, I've looked at the logistics of this many times. I looked at this like the last time he came into power. It's not feasible. It's not realistic. So you shouldn't think about it at all. Okay, just don't think about it. But if you think that imposing tariffs on Canada is going to cripple our economy and turn us into a third world country, that is because you have bought into the bullshit. It's because you bought into the narrative and because you don't fully understand what tariffs are. That's the truth. That's probably the truth is that we live in a world where most people cannot balance their fucking checking account, much less understand the complicated economy of a freaking G8 country. If I was a dictator, which I'm not, if I was, and I started a country from scratch, and my sole goal was to dominate, manipulate, and control a hateful, ignorant population, the first thing I'm doing is burning the textbooks. The first thing I'm doing is burning the libraries. I don't want people to learn. The second thing I'm doing is putting people on their phones so that they are easier to control. You have a megaphone in your pocket in which misinformation flows through, and the loudest, most sensational, most ridiculous shit is all that gets through because that's what the media propagates. What we're doing right here is we're having a 382 person conference that, frankly, 100 years ago would have been me screaming into a megaphone that probably didn't exist or screaming into, one of those in a town square. And what I'm trying to tell you is don't fall for this bullshit. Don't fall for the fear tactics. Don't fall for the hate. Don't start hating immigrants. I Dude, I've seen it. I see some people looking funny at Indian people, and every single time something happens, they're looking funny at somebody. Yo, after the OJ Simpson thing, I mean, people were looking funny at every black person. After Central 5, everyone's looking funny at every black person. After every single, thing that happened with Serbia, people are looking funny at me. I understand it. I get it. You're afraid. It's normal. But these people are preying on your subconscious tendencies to protect yourself, and they're trying to put you in this constant fight or flight response. Okay? I'll end this with one thing. An eye for an eye makes the world blind. You don't want this. You don't want the world to go blind. Okay? I'm done. At an hour and 14, I have no idea how long I ranted, but there's a reason why Reddit hates Pensare. Sure, no problem. You know what's cool though? I'm perfectly comfortable being hated. And I don't need to hate every single person who hates me. If you hate me, that's your problem. I got nothing to do with that. Medved saying it also affects American creating stagnation, high inflation, stagnant economic growth, and elevated unemployment. My last thing that I will say, sorry. Populist dictators and strongmen and fascist dictators, they always get off on trying to help the common man, or at least narratively, they try to pretend to be for the people. They are not for the people. The American people will suffer very much because of these tariffs. And you think that Canada will suffer more, but what you don't realize is that Canada has 40 million people. America has over 300 million. So who will really suffer more? You can figure that out for yourself. Okay. So, MEE, how do you balance self control with the need to stand up for yourself or your country? Interestingly, in a way, Trump's actions are indirectly fostering unity within Canada. Unity is good. Unity is great. Tough times bring people together. A common enemy also brings people together. But what people do within that togetherness is really different. You can start a liberation army, and, you know, if you want to look around the world at every single conflict zone on the planet, from Kashmir to the Gaza Strip to Russia and Ukraine, if you want to really go down that path of liberation under justified means and allowing the dumbest people in the world to, convert your youth into extremists, go right ahead. I'm trying to tell you that hate doesn't solve anything. Respond force with force, but respond hate with love every single time. All right. Are we still going to talk about basketball? Yes. So enough politics talk. I'm done with politics. I don't want to talk about politics anymore on this channel. I did it yesterday. I did it today. I think this is a very important message, and I'm gonna stop. I don't want to turn this into that. And if I ever do want to talk about politics again, what I will do is I will create a midnight live, and I will call it a politics talk. If I have any more of this stuff to say, it doesn't feel right to bring this stuff into basketball talk, but I felt like this needed to get out to more people, so I just wanted to say it. Importantly, the Toronto Raptors, Canada's lone franchise, looking to compete. I am convinced that the Raptors will make a deal. Convinced, positive that they're going to make a deal. There's so many people right now that are looking to catch up with what's happening. And because these deals have happened earlier than expected, they didn't just wait till 3 p.m. They didn't trickle in at 3:02, 3:04, 3:08. No. These deals happened a full 4 or 5 days before the trade deadline. And because of that, because they've happened so early in the trade deadline, it actually has created a sense of panic in the market of what else is going to happen before the deadline. It sort of started the clock, if you will. It started the clock a little early. I can only imagine that Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster are up right now, one phone in one hand, one phone in the other hand. The other person's in the washroom. The other person's, having a cup of espresso, saying it's going to be a long night, Masai. Hell yes, it is. And you better hope that they are. You better hope that they're going to take every single call, that they're going to explore their roster apart from the 3 players that I really mentioned. And they're going to explore everything from consolidation to liquidation. And you're going to hope that in the end, what's going to make a good decision is going to be doing it from the right place and getting the right price for your assets. Okay. In the end, trading Chris Boucher for a second round pick doesn't do you a hell of a lot of good. Chris Boucher is actually a pretty damn serviceable player. And if you told me right now that the Raptors extended him for 3 years, 21 million, I'm perfectly fine with that. Good for Chris. I have really, really, really changed my stance on Chris. I'm buying, okay? Like, I'm going to buy into this idea. Shout outs to the members of this community who've always supported Chris. I am not one of them. I am not someone who's always been like long on Chris. But I actually feel right now that this guy's turned a corner as a basketball player, and I am perfectly content keeping him. perfectly content keeping him. Like if he's just that guy, that break in case of emergency type of, third, fourth big on your roster who can just sort of stopgap, he'll be movable next trade deadline, the trade deadline after. He's a homegrown talent. He's someone from the championship core. Chris means so much more to the Raptors than he does to pretty much anyone else. So now you need to find somebody who needs him so badly and values him enough that it actually even trumps how much you value him. This is important. This is important. Tetrahedron with the comment of the night. Darko's done wonders with Chris. Darko's done wonders with Chris, Ochai. And you know what? There's been reports that Ochai is available, that Ochai has been, someone that has maybe not necessarily been available, but is someone that has been talked about. Yo, I got news for you. You got RJ Barrett, Scottie Barnes, Jacoby Walter, Gradey Dick. That's 4. If you add even one high value wing in this draft, or if you trade for Brandon Ingram, where are the minutes for Ochai? Maybe Ochai goes the other way. Maybe that's what you trade instead of a first round pick. And, for the New Orleans Pelicans, they will replace 30% of what they lost by trading Dyson Daniels. Right? You look at teams like Golden State right now. Look around the league at the players that are available and the teams that are desperate. Golden State is desperate. I believe that Golden State is desperate. Okay? If you really want to think about which teams need to make a move right now, Miami needs to make a move right now. I believe Miami needs to make a move right now. They may not say that they need to make a move right now, but if you look at the NBA standings right now, this team does not need to make a move, the Wizards, but they certainly could make a move. The Hornets do not need to make a move, but they have some interesting players. I'm not sure which of those players you would necessarily take on, but or which of them they'd be willing to move. The Nets absolutely need to make a move. And I would say Cam Johnson would be the Raptors' best bet on that roster, and Nick Claxton. If you can get those two players and you end up giving them expirings and a couple picks, wouldn't you do it? I mean, be honest with yourselves. Would you give up a boatload of expirings, one young player, I'm not sure who that young player would be, and the Indiana pick and a heavily protected 2028 first round pick? Would you give up that for Nick Claxton and Cam Johnson? You just fundamentally changed your entire team with 2 players under the age of 28. Lordana Bruno is saying, I love you, Rob. Thank you. Appreciate you. I'm uncomfortable with affection, so I feel like a more suave, cool person would be like, love you too, but I don't really know you. So maybe someday I'll know you and I'll love you too. All right. Okay. The Hawks. I think the Hawks need to make a move. I think the Bulls will make a move. I think the Sixers would like to make a move. Would you like Paul George? No. Would you like Joel Embiid? Now we can talk about it. I hate Joel Embiid, but I mean, if the price is right, I might. The Pistons, they got to make a move. Yo, these are all teams that pretty much have to make a move. The Pistons are deadlocked 50-50 right now. They're 500. And they have cap space. They have young players. They have roster redundancies. They have a point guard who's missing the entire year. Would the Pistons give you... Now, here's a question. Let me give you an idea for a Pistons trade. Emmanuel Quickley, who I love, for Asar Thompson. Would you do it? Emmanuel Quickley for Asar Thompson. Would you do it? Would they do it? I mean, shoot. It helps them tremendously right now. And for the Raptors, I mean, shit. It gives you like a really, really, really good young player with some serious defensive chops and a questionable jump shot that you can develop with Darko Rajakovic. That's the beautiful thing about this. The Miami Heat need to make a trade. The Milwaukee Bucks need to make a trade. Do you want to get in on the Chris Middleton business? Do you want to give them something for Bobby Portis that they will eventually turn into, and compensate you for a little bit of draft stuff? These are teams that need to make a move. Here are the teams that don't need to make a move. pretty much Washington, the Cavaliers, the Celtics. I would say the Knicks are pretty fringy in terms of if they need to make a move. Mitchell Robinson, center. I think they could look to make a move. I think Indiana needs to make a move too. So that's just the East. You look at the West. The Thunder, do they need to make a move? I think it really depends on Chet Holmgren, but I don't think they need to make a move. The Grizzlies, do they need to make a move? No, they actually don't need to make a move. They could, but they don't need to. The Rockets, I don't think Fred VanVleet's going to miss that much time, but no, I don't think they need to make a move. The Nuggets, they do need to make a move. I think they need to make a move, regardless of how well they're playing right now. The Lakers absolutely need to make a move. And by the way, the move they need to make is getting bigs. And you know what the Raptors have available? Bigs. And you know how you lose a lot of games? By not having bigs. So, ergo, if you want to trade, I'm going to give you a hypothetical, something around the framework of Chris Boucher, Kelly, and you get Dalton Connect, Gabe Vincent, and a first-round pick and a few seconds, do you look at that? Do they look at that? Do they say, shoot, like, I know we're giving up the young player, but by the way, and I know we're giving up a pick, but we got such a good deal. Like, never underestimate people being high after getting well, right? Like people weirdly enough, like when they feel like they've gotten a really good deal, some people are willing to make a little bit of a bad deal to balance it out because they might see the whole transaction as like the same deal, right? They're not about to burn the good graces of their fan base by trading a first round pick for Chris Boucher right now. I promise you right now, nobody fucking cares. You traded Luka Doncic. You traded for Luka Doncic and you traded away Anthony Davis. I'm pretty sure right now you could trade, like, if they had it, you could trade like three first round picks for Chris Boucher and Kelly Olynyk, and people would be like, well, still got Luka. Nobody cares. Nobody cares right now. People are just way too high about that stuff. I don't think the Clippers need to make a move. I really don't. I don't necessarily even think they have the right contracts to make a move. They've already made their move, and I think it is the one move that they're going to make. But it could be interesting if that move was a setup for another move. I think the Timberwolves desperately need to make a move. And so would the Raptors get in on Donte DiVincenzo? Do they think Donte DiVincenzo could be a fit long-term with this core? Is he young enough? Is he good enough? Is he just in a really bad situation in Minnesota where maybe the Raptors think that, hey, like we could actually make this work somehow, and we're willing to give you that Indiana first to make it work? So Chris Boucher for Donte DiVincenzo, and okay, forget the pick. Like, let's just add that. Do they need that? I like their young players, yo. I like Josh Minott. I certainly like Leonard Miller. Could the Raptors get in on that? Could the Raptors do something? Could the Raptors take Julius Randle and Josh Minott and give them expirings for that? Is that front office right now sitting at 7th cap conscious enough that those savings, and that being an expiring contract, because Julius is not on an expiring contract, do the savings help them? Because they've already made a stupid deal. Maybe the cap conscious nature of what they're trying to do with this allows them to make a second stupid deal. Any deal with them, I want Josh Minott or Leonard Miller back. I don't really care about the picks, to be honest. They don't have that many picks anyways, but the Phoenix Suns desperately need to make a move. But Bradley Beal doesn't want to go anywhere. Bradley Beal wants to stay in Phoenix unless he can get to a place where his family wants to move. He's thinking about his family right now. And to those of us who are a little bit younger, who don't have families, we're probably just like, oh, God, Bradley Beal, he's so stupid. But to those of you who do have families, moving your family across the country is a bitch. And so I completely empathize with Bradley Beal, and I understand he's not going to go to cold weather climate. So there's a few things that I can say 100%. Bradley Beal ain't coming to Toronto is definitely one of them. This is 100% Bradley Beal ain't coming to Toronto. But the Suns would love to make a deal work for Jimmy Butler. And so they need a third team to take Bradley Beal, but it needs to be a team that he's agreeing to. I don't really see him agreeing to come to Toronto. Miami doesn't want him. And I can't think of another team that does want him, that he would actually want to go to. So it's just like a really tough situation. But the Suns need to make a move regardless. So could the Raptors help them out by trading them something serviceable and taking on Yusuf Nurkic? Could they do something like that? And again, the Suns are a second apron team, so they cannot aggregate salaries. So you're going to have to make a 1-for-1 swap. And the restriction is that it has to be less than what they're getting. The Kings, I think the Kings can make a move. They now have 3 first round picks. One of them is a lottery protected Charlotte pick that, unless hell freezes over and, the pigeons come to roost, there's no way in hell that the Charlotte Hornets are making the playoffs. So that pick is fake first. It's really 2 seconds. So really what they did was they traded De'Aaron Fox for Zach LaVine and 4 seconds and 2 firsts. Okay. And they, in the process, got off the contract of Kevin Huerter. That being said, would you explore a deal to give them a big? They still don't have rim protection. They didn't have it before. They still don't have it. Does Chris Boucher help them a lot? Yeah, I think he does. I think he would be a rotation player on that team. And do maybe you look to take one of those first round picks in exchange for helping them out with that? I think you could. The Warriors are so desperate to make a move. The Spurs are desperate. I don't want to say desperate to make a move because they made their big move for De'Aaron Fox. I don't know if they made another move today. I could be wrong. I can't remember if they did. But I genuinely think that the Spurs could be a team that would be interested in what the Raptors have to offer. And oh, by the way, it really helps that the Raptors already have such a well-formed trading relationship with the Spurs. The Trailblazers. The Trailblazers, I don't say have to make a move. I don't think the Pelicans have to make a move, but it's worth noting that both of these teams would like to make a move. So there you go. Everyone's open for business. Business started early, and you are the ultimate connector. I think the Raptors are in one of the most enviable positions. I'll reiterate again. I think the Raptors are in one of the most enviable positions, and I really, really hope that Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster are working their phones right now, because this could be an opportunity to strike while the iron's hot, while everyone's panicking about the second apron, a situation that you, because you have Bobby Webster on your team, this capologist Bobby Webster, who sees the vision of how the NBA CBA is working from uh, the perspective of years ahead. The Raptors did all of this precisely for this day. You understand what I'm saying? All the winning, all the losing, all the development, all the assets, all the expirings, the picking up of Bruce's contract, all of this was to build up this gigantic bucket to be used in the next 3 days. That's it. That's what this is. We have put together all of these picks, everything the Raptors have done. Now, some of us think that all of this was done so that we can use all of these picks and so that we can, let all these players expire. But what if all of this was done to actually package for a player that we're not thinking about right now? That maybe some team out there is just like, shoot, I really like this guy, but I don't know if I want to pay him. And here come the Raptors with their 5 picks and their boatload of expirings. And suddenly it's win now. The Raptors have the option to do that. I'm not saying they should do that. And historically, Masai Ujiri has never traded more than 1 first round pick in a deal. So maybe it doesn't have to be 5 first round picks or 3 first round picks, but it's worth noting the Raptors have more options than they know what to do with right now. I really hope they do something good with it. We have a super chat here, our first super chat of the day, which is Asher Ali. What are the chances of Raptors landing BI? If not BI, what do you think the front office will do? Thank you so much, Asher Ali, for your question. Let me try my best to answer it. What are the chances of the Raptors landing BI? I would say less than 15%. And I'd like to explain why I think the Raptors can land Brandon Ingram. Number one, the New Orleans Pelicans are awful and have very little, if any, interest in actually re-signing him to the type of deal that he wants. What would hold something like this up is the Raptors' perhaps trepidations about paying Brandon Ingram given his injury history, age, and questionable outside shooting. When I think of the perfect player to pair with a Scottie Barnes, I think of players, and it sounds kind of out there, but bear with me. I'm not saying the perfect as in like this is the perfect, but Devin Booker is like the perfect player to pair with Scottie Barnes. Like when I think across the league, I think Devin Booker. That's a great player to pair with Scottie Barnes. Could you make a deal for Devin Booker right now? Possibly, but very unlikely. Extremely unlikely. Chosen saying Booker ain't for sale. Well, the beautiful thing is Luka wasn't for sale either. When the Luka Doncic trade happens, suddenly it changes the way people think about who's available and who's worth asking about. Had someone asked about Luka last week, there's a chance that maybe Nico Harrison might have been open to it. Unfortunately, because he had tunnel vision about getting Anthony Davis or Giannis, he wasn't really open to trading for anybody but those two players. But you know what's stupid? I'm not saying that he would have, but would the Cavaliers have moved a package around Evan Mobley to get Luka Doncic? Would Evan Mobley and Darius Garland have been a much, much better offer? Would Franz Wagner and Anthony Black have been a better offer? The Mavericks fucked up hard. And the reason that, the reason that hasn't been really leaked about this is because I believe that Luka wasn't going to go anywhere but LA. And that's just my read on the situation. You can choose not to believe me on that one. But again, I'm someone who can, if the right person in the NBA wants to reach out to me, I can provide you proof of that. But yeah, I don't think Luka was going anywhere else. So that's just a very different situation. It's a private sale. But Brandon Ingram has a lot in common with Devin Booker. Just isn't quite seen as the same level of star, has a lot of injury concerns, etc. So I think it'll just come down to what are the Pelicans willing to sell at, right? Like, are they willing to take back just expirings? Because that makes this almost a no-brainer. But I've mentioned before, there's no reason for that because Brandon Ingram is basically an expiring. So you have to sweeten it with something, whether that's adding Ochai Agbaji to it, whether that's adding Indiana's first. You have to be able to sell your fan base on why you're doing things. I don't think anyone in New Orleans is going to be okay with trading Brandon Ingram for Bruce Brown just to save some money. I don't think they're going to be okay with that. A package, however, of Bruce Brown plus Ochai Agbaji plus Davion Mitchell, because of the latter two's lottery, tag. Because of the lottery tag around those two, and because of their recent play, and because they've both been a part of some success, I think somewhere you can sort of sell yourself on that package and just say, look, Brandon Ingram wasn't going to win a championship with us. DeJounte Murray just tore his, Achilles. He's done for the year. Zion's questionable all the time. We're trying to tank for Cooper Flag here. So we decided to trade this really good player. We don't intend to pay him. The Raptors can pay him. Okay, cool. I think that's probably a deal that probably gets it done. But if not BI, who do I think the front office, or what do I think the front office will do? I mean, it's really difficult to say what I think the front office will do because you don't really know how much this Luka and Fox, the Luka and Fox deals have to sort of change the equation. I think there were a lot of a lot of conversations that were happening probably 2 weeks ago that just aren't happening anymore. And there's a lot of conversations that couldn't happen a few weeks ago that are suddenly very possible to have right now. And so I do think that right now it's difficult to get a read on exactly what it is. The reporting out there is that the Raptors are looking to be facilitators, as in, they're looking to be the Utah Jazz of the world right now. See what the Utah Jazz did in the last, what the Utah Jazz did in the last deal between Luka and, AD was they benefited by taking on Jalen Hood-Schifino and 2 second-round picks. The reporting is the Raptors want to do that, right? But maybe that's a misdirection. Maybe that's not actually what they want to do because that's not really lining up with the team success that the Raptors are enjoying. And I'm trying to understand why they've tried to be competitive right now, and I'm trying to understand it. And one version of this is they're bluffing. They're legitimately bluffing the league, and they're trying to raise the value of their players, and they happen to be winning. But Darko is coaching every single game to win. Scottie's playing every single game to win, and Masai is obviously in line and improving this. So in the end, If you want to lose, there's a really easy way to do it. Play the young guys, stop playing Jakob Poeltl as much, sit down some of your vets, play funky lineups, and you'll lose as many games as you were losing before. Losing is not difficult to achieve in the NBA unless you're facing the Wizards, in which case it is damn near a miracle and impossible to try to lose against the Wizards. Although I think the Charlotte Hornets are about to do it. If not, they did it today. Did the Wizards just win 2 straight after being the worst team in the league? Did they just do that? Hold on, I need to look at what the hell has happened today just to clarify. Okay, Memphis is beating San Antonio. Yikes. Denver's beating New Orleans. No surprises there. Utah is about to beat Indiana, which is like, what the hell is going on with that? And Washington did beat Charlotte. There you go. And Atlanta beat Detroit. Go figure. Okay. So, there's the world for you. But yeah, do I think the front office will do? I think the front office could reasonably, if not Brandon Ingram, and definitely not Jimmy Butler, and definitely not Bradley Beal, I could see the Raptors potentially being a team for Michael Porter Jr. or Jeremy Grant, provided they are compensated fairly for it. I think those are two players that shoot really well. I think they're both players that can sort of reasonably fit into what you do. I think they're both on teams that could use some of the stuff that you have. I think it's difficult right now for Denver because Denver's playing so well, but I could certainly see a world in which Denver would want to move off of some of those guys in order to get some of the things that you want. But yeah, Jeremy Grant's a negative asset right now. I think you'd have to be compensated with either a young player or like a really good young player to take on that salary. Other than that, I could see a move with Detroit. I certainly could. An Asar Thompson swap or something like that. Even if again, I don't know how they feel about Asar. If they feel like having a non-shooter around Cade is, negatively impacting spacing. Maybe they feel there's some sort of redundancy between him and also between him and whatchamacallit, Ron Holland. So maybe they choose the younger, 1 year, 1 year cheaper player in Ron Holland. They decide Asar's worth a little bit more. And maybe you trade for Asar Thompson. Certainly wouldn't be the first time or the last time that a player is going to get traded while they're on their rookie deal. So I could see that. Asar would be great with the Raptors. I know the shooting is a question mark, and putting non-shooters around Scottie Barnes long term is weird, but I do think he's going to figure out the shooting at some point. Maybe not 38% or something, but I think he'll figure it out. I think Jabari Smith over in Houston could be an option. I don't know what we would have to offer them, but maybe in a 3-team deal. And again, like that's the complicated nature of, trying to identify which deals work, because usually when you think about a deal where, okay, this team and this team can do business together, it's usually because you think they have something you want and you have something they want, but the 3-team deal completely makes that nonsense. And ultimately what you end up with is, we want Jabari Smith. Some team out there wants Chris Boucher and 2 first-round picks, and the Rockets want what that third team has. And so now we can make the deal. We want Jabari Smith. I think Jabari would be a good fit in Toronto. I think he'd be a fantastic fit. I think the Raptors would be really, really great with him as a 4 so that Scottie can play more 3. And that would move Gradey to the bench, which would be probably good for him and probably good for the Raptors defense. I think Jabari would be the ideal candidate as a sort of buy low player. He's also extension eligible really soon. It's worth noting that with extensions to Alperen Şengün plus Jalen Green plus soon Amen Thompson, like how much money do you think they want to sign up for long term? So yeah, I could see a player like Jabari. I could, in the weirdest sense, maybe see taking an asset back in order to eat the contract of Patrick Williams. If you buy into the idea that, hey, Scottie knows Patrick Williams, maybe there's sort of some untapped potential. We can figure out his offensive game, even though he's stagnated. I think Arturas, the general manager over in Chicago, looks like an absolute idiot for giving that guy $17 million when he's barely worth 7 or 8. But I'm reminded that, when Pascal Siakam trade rumors came up a few years ago, most of us wouldn't want to touch DeAndre Hunter's contract with a 10-foot pole. And right now, DeAndre Hunter is playing like great basketball. I think the Atlanta Hawks are another one, where Would the Raptors build a deal around RJ Barrett for Zachary Reese-Shea? I have no idea how the Hawks feel about Zachary Reese-Shea. What I do know is that Jalen Johnson's out for a year, and the Hawks defense is pretty good. If the Raptors believe in Zachary Reese-Shea, could that be a deal that gets you through? I mean, it makes you younger. Zach is a great fit next to Scottie. He's not a great defender right now, but he certainly projects to be a good one. He's probably 2 years away, and your franchise point guard is probably going to get disgruntled. So if you just bought on him as a first overall pick because you just felt like he was the most sustainable convertible asset, which is what I think kind of worked, there's questions about long-term fit between Zach, Dyson Daniels, plus Jalen Johnson. So, I mean, RJ Barrett's not that much younger. If you're maybe taking back a bad salary in that deal and maybe throwing in a young player, does a deal around I mean, I just think you need to think outside the box a little bit here. I mean, everyone's thinking like, "Oh, the Raptors going to trade for Jimmy Butler or Brandon Ingram." It's like, shit. Open up the Rolodex, man. Like, what is Utah willing to give you for eating some of their contracts? I mean, I think if I'm the Raptors, I'm calling everybody, everybody. I'm calling literally everybody. I'm calling Washington, and I'm asking about Jonas Valanciunas. I am. I'll ask about Jonas Valanciunas. I have no idea what they want for Jonas Valanciunas. Maybe they want Kelly Olynyk. I don't think I do that, but I'm asking about. I'm asking for everybody. I'm asking about everybody. I'm looking at second round picks. I'm looking at first round picks. But yeah, most likely scenario, the Raptors end up facilitating a deal in which Bruce Brown ends up being shuttled off to some team. The Raptors end up taking on a 2-year salary and they get compensated one first round pick or two reasonably valuable second round picks. That's probably the most likely scenario that all of this is going to turn into. But I certainly hope for more. I hope for more. Araf Harun saying ideal buy scenario and ideal sell scenario. I'm not sure I completely understand, but I'll try to understand what you're saying. Ideal buy scenario. I think I know what you're saying. Now that I've said it a few times, now in my head, I think I understand what you're saying. Ideal sell scenario, if a team calls giving you multiple firsts for one of your expirings, like if a team calls offering, or even one of your veteran bigs, like if somehow there's a deal that involves that 2031 plus Dalton Connect, which Dalton Connect I pretty much equate as a first. So first or equivalent, which is like a rookie on their rookie deal, right? Or even a second year player on their rookie deal, like a Jarris Walker, something like that. I think maybe this is possibly a chance to explore Jarris Walker's shit. I don't know. Anyways, so I'm just throwing out names here. But if I look at a deal where someone is willing to give me multiple firsts for Jakob Poeltl, or a first and a young player, or a first and 2 high value seconds, if I'm basically able to get that kind of value back for Jakob Poeltl, I think that move then triggers subsequent moves. Basically, it's really difficult to go 2 different ways with 2 different trades. So it's like really difficult to imagine you're going to trade Bruce Brown and Chris Boucher for picks and then go out and try to upgrade your roster. Like you're going one way or the other way. It just so happens that the Raptors can sort of bunch these trades up into like one. So you have options right now. I'm sure the Raptors have offers for Bruce Brown on the docket. It's not like no one's wants Bruce Brown. There's plenty of people who want Bruce Brown. They're just not willing to give you a hell of a lot for him. And I think if you're the Raptors, taking on additional salary, especially when you are a cap conscious team that doesn't want to be in the luxury tax, has some young players, that have variable contracts and you don't know what that optionality is going to give you. The one thing is that the Raptors don't necessarily value cap space the way a lot of other teams do because they never really use it on anything productive. I mean, the last time the Raptors used their cap space, I mean, it's always been disastrous, hasn't it? DeMar Carroll, Hedo Turkoglu, Hakeem Olajuwon. When have the Raptors made productive use of their cap space? In fact, when have the Raptors really made productive use of their mid-level? Dennis Schroeder was probably one of the better mid-level signings. My God, Jalen McDaniels was a biannual exception guy, but okay. Like the vast majority of deals that the Raptors have signed under Masai Ujiri in free agency have been bad, in my experience. Like just even viewing it back to Brian Colangelo days, man. Jason Capono, Landry Fields. Yo, these are bad deals. I just want to be clear about that. These are all deals that backfired. So basically, if the Raptors go into free agency and they have any amount of money to play with, you can guarantee they're going to do something stupid. All the contracts they sign are pretty much overpays or terrible. So the best thing to do right now is probably to take on a player who's either on a max contract, so you can't actually overpay them, like a Scottie Barnes. You can't overpay Scottie because he's going to get a max. Or take a player who's already locked in to a deal. Would the Raptors look at, again, a thought? Would the Raptors have what it takes to get Devin Vassell or Keldon Johnson from the Spurs? Those are two players that I feel are interesting to the Raptors. It could be interesting to the Raptors. I don't think the Raptors are all that interested in Cam Whitmore. I'll tell you that. Yeah, those are some players that I think would be really interesting for the Raptors. Anyone else out there with DeMar Carroll PTSD? RJ averaging 6 assists, up from 2 in New York. Absolutely. Big Moose saying, what about Cam Whitmore? I think he's gettable. There's a reason he's gettable. There is a reason he's gettable. They are. Walker Kessler. Walker Kessler would be a really interesting pickup for the Raptors as a backup big. I think my only issue is that long term, I know that Scottie pairs best with a stretch big, right? Nickeil Alexander Walker, Jonathan Kuminga, Whitmore, I'm just saying no. What about Portland's pieces? I like so many players in the Portland Trail Blazers. It's honestly crazy. Rob Williams. Rob Williams could be a target for the Raptors. He fills a huge need. He is the type of player that the Raptors could desperately use off the bench as a plug and play big. Injury history, yes. How free is Toumani Camara? Borderline untouchable. I'm pretty sure that Toumani Camara would, like, they love him. They love him. Shaden Sharp, Toumani Camara, these are hard players to get. Anthony Simons, Jeremy Grant, Denny Avdia might be a little bit easier to get. Not free, but easier, right? A player who is available for sure is DeAndre Ayton. I don't want him. Donovan Clingan is the future over in Portland. They're not trading him. Some Mo Bamba believers. Yo, Mo Bamba was one of my favorite players to imagine what he could be in NBA 2K. You know, it's so funny. There's a couple players in NBA 2K that just I fancied into becoming much better players than they really were. Mo Bamba is one of them. Who else is one of them? Swaggy P is another one. Yeah. Any scenario where Raptors put together a trade package, including a first, for a young player with high upside. Yeah, Jabari Smith. I could see Jabari. Yo, let's get Lonzo Ball. Bring him the big baller brand. No. I got Bruce Brown going, Chris Boucher going, and Yak going together alone. Who stays? What do you mean who stays? You mean you got those three players going, and which of those players would I keep? I would keep Yak. Just because of age. I mean, primarily because of age. But I do like Chris. So the only thing with Jonas, even though I jokingly said I would call about him, is doesn't really shoot that well right now. I know he shoots a lot better than Jakob Pertl, but he's not a good defender. and he doesn't shoot that well. Like, I'm looking at, could the Raptors make a deal with the Magic centered around Caleb Houston and Contavious Caldwell Pope and like could the Raptors do that kind of deal? Like a 3-for-2, you know, where you take Jonathan Isaac, guy you like, Wendell Carter, something like that. I don't know. But like you need to identify the places that want what you have. And I'm just thinking like if I'm the Raptors, I'll open myself up right now to at least exploring the possibility of trading RJ or IQ. I would look at it. I'm not saying I would. I'm just saying I'd explore it. I don't think the Raptors are in a position to be saying, "Oh, half our roster is off limits. Don't talk to us about Emmanuel Quickly and RJ Barrett." Like, no, I mean, these are perfectly tradable players. Players like them get traded all the time. Alexander B. Rob, what do you want the Raptors to do at the deadline? Get better or worse? I want them to get better in the future. I want them to improve their standing as it pertains to their end goal of building a championship team around Scottie Barnes. Now, here's what's not all that valuable in terms of building a championship team around Scottie Barnes: a 2031 first round pick that you decide to hold until 2031, because your window with Scottie probably starts in 2026. Okay, so what you need to do right now is, and I'm not suggesting that Glenn Grunwald is God, or Glenn Grunwald did some great job, or Glenn Grunwald didn't make mistakes, but I want you to remember that the Raptors had the 5th overall pick in the NBA draft, and they traded it to the Indiana Pacers for a veteran center named Antonio Davis. I want you to remember that the Toronto Raptors had a highly touted rookie, a 2nd overall pick, who was damn near leading the league in shot blocking, named Marcus Camby, and they traded him for an aging Charles Oakley. And they made these moves to support, at the time, their young core of Tracy McGrady and Vince Carter. So, when you think about what you're actually trying to do, you're trying to win. You know, like, do I need to I need to have a soundboard with Masai Ujiri's voice saying winning, winning. That's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to win. Like, the tank crowd is lost in the weeds. Okay. They really are. And believe me, if we tear it down, I'll be lost right there in the weeds with you, campaigning with my, like, flag for Cooper, fail for Cooper bullshit. I don't care. Like, I'm not sentimental about this shit. I'm not like one of those people who's like, oh my God, how dare you tank? No, I don't care. If that's what you need to do. Cooper is a hell of an asset. Cooper is a hell of an asset that you can either use, or, I don't know, like, you could trade, hypothetically. And you want to think about the offers you get for Cooper Flag? You might get Giannis for Cooper Flag at this point. My point is, what you're trying to do is you're trying to start the clock towards contention. And what people who engage in sports gambling and fantasy basketball and hypothetical 2K trade machine world, the people who don't live in the real world, they think what's going to happen. Let me tell you what they think is going to happen. They think they're going to draft Ace Bailey next year, and Ace Bailey is going to come out and average 20 points per game, and Scottie Barnes and Ace Bailey and Emmanuel Quickly and RJ Barrett and Gradey Dick and all these players are somehow going to win 47 games, and they're going to get bounced in the second round, and the next year they're going to come back and they're going to go to the finals, and the next year they're going to come back and they're going to win a finals. That's what they think is going to happen. The reality of what's going to happen is you're going to draft Ace Bailey, and he's going to suck for like 3 weeks, 4 weeks. He's going to look like he can't shoot, and he's going to have strength and conditioning issues, and he's going to have trouble adjusting defensively, and you're going to swear he's the biggest bust in the world. And then he's going to go down to the G League for some reps, and you're going to be like, I can't believe our top 3 pick is in the G League. Or maybe he's not going to go in the G League. Maybe he's going to be sat out for a few weeks to put on some strength and conditioning. And then he's going to start to improve, and then you might make the 7th seed, in which case he's going to play really horribly because he's not ready for the playoffs. And then you're going to come back next year and you're going to win 46 games and you're going to get bounced in the first round. And then you're going to come back the next year and you're going to win 52 games and you're probably going to get bounced in the second round. And then you're going to come back the next year and you're going to win 60 games. And somehow you're going to bounce in the first round because somehow that always ends up happening. And then maybe if you're lucky, when Ace Bailey's in his 6th year, 50 year, I forgot where I'm at right now, maybe you'll get to the finals with a chance. That's how this works. Now, in my hypothetical simulation of 6 years from now, Scottie Barnes is already 29. That's not when you want to get there. You want to get there when he's 25, 26. So how can you speed this up so you're not attempting to get there for the first time when he's 29? And I'm saying right now, if you get there when he's 29, you made amazing progress. You've done a great job. I'm saying, can you get there when he's 28, 27? Well, maybe Brandon Ingram solves that problem. It's amazing to me how many people could sit here and say tank for Ace Bailey, tank for Ace Bailey, tank for Ace Bailey, and those same people are like, I won't want to give up Bruce Brown and a first round pick for Brandon Ingram. That's wild to me. Brandon Ingram is way closer to being on Scottie's timeline right now. Scottie is a very rare 23-year-old, like very rare. Most 21-year-olds, 22-year-olds don't help you win. Scottie was helping you win when he was 20. So again, fair. The 3-point element is important. So I look at players like Michael Porter Jr. I look at players like Jabari Smith, Jeremy Grant, and I'm like, okay, we don't want to go the Brandon Ingram way because we want 3-point shooting around Scottie Barnes. Does a Jeremy Grant move you in the same direction that a Tobias Harris moved the Detroit Pistons? Now, I don't think the Detroit Pistons are sitting here like, oh my God, we got a tank. Why? Why do you think it's so nonsense? Like, if you found out that Detroit wanted to tank right now, you'd be like, what? How could you blow this golden opportunity for Cade Cunningham? Well, I think Scottie's a better player than Cade Cunningham. So my question would be, how do you want to blow this golden opportunity for Scottie Barnes? I don't know. My point is, I don't want to be 8th or 9th or 10th or 11th. I don't. I don't in the lottery. I don't. I'd rather go for it and be in the play-in or bottom out and be at the bottom because there's no moral victories here. And in the end, being a 32 win team this year instead of a 27 win team is not about to necessarily impact your success next year by very much. That's the way I'm looking at it. I just don't want to be in the middle of the lottery. I just don't want to be like 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th. Like, this is just a shitty outcome. And obviously, if you're going for the play-in, you're leaving yourself open to the idea that you will be 10th, 9th, etc. But I'm perfectly fine if you think that you have the roster. It's just the problem is right now, I don't think the way the Raptors roster is constructed offensively, I just don't think this team has a chance. I want to say a chance, but I don't think they have a great chance to really get through 2 games in the play-in. And they're almost always going to finish 9th or 10th if they do things right. So the way I see it is, if you're going to go that way, bring Brandon Ingram along and give yourself a chance. And at the very least, have that. And if you're not going to go that way, then sell on some of these players and then try to get Cooper Flag. That's where I'm at. I forgot one last thing from my Steph to Toronto crap. Scottie has certain Draymond similarities, so perhaps good fit. I mean, if the Raptors spent years preparing for this week, might as well dream big. I'm glad you brought that up. What would it take to get Steph Curry from the Golden State Warriors? Well, I think number one, it would take Steph Curry wanting to leave the Golden State Warriors. You don't actively shop you're not actively shopping Steph Curry. Number one. Number two, if Steph Curry is being shot by the Golden State Warriors, I think his relationship with Joe Lacob and everybody in the Golden State Warriors is so great that if they were to trade him, it would be to his desired destination. So I think you need to ask yourself why a 36-year-old Steph Curry wants to come to the Toronto Raptors. He doesn't. Just an FYI. But I do love the idea of dreaming big. I love the idea of dreaming big. Rob, would you take LaMelo in Toronto? He seems to be undervalued. He is definitely not undervalued. And no, I wouldn't. Trey Murphy has 40 points in his last 2 games. Pelicans are not trading him, or maybe they're just showcasing him because they are secretly trying to trade him. I don't know. Pale Fox saying, sorry, I just don't see Giannis as a 38, 39-year-old player. I don't think his game translates long-term. Screw BI. Murphy has 40 against the Nuggets tonight. Yes. You know, one person who never shuts up about my take where I said I would take Trey Murphy, in the past offseason when we were doing the Cade Cunningham talks on Players Choice, the one person who always talks shit to me about, you know, Rob, you remember the time you said you would take Trey Murphy over Cade Cunningham? I'm so happy Trey Murphy is giving Swiper's team 40 points tonight. That's awesome. I'm happy to hear it. Anyways, I got to get back to pendant stuff, man. I'm like behind the 8 ball so hard. We have so much work to do over the next 24 days to get this shit prepared. I feel bad for the filmmakers because, a lot of their emails haven't been answered and a lot of their files haven't been downloaded. It is 11:11 right now, exactly 11:11 on the East Coast. I need you to make a wish for what you want the Raptors. I don't know if you're superstitious like I am, but I usually try to make wishes at 11:11. This live is ending at 11:11, so make a wish on what you think the Raptors would do, and don't believe the superstition. Let us know in the comments below after this video goes out what you wished for. Have a good night, guys. Have a great night, and links to pendants, tickets, and passes are in the description below. Great films coming your way. Thank you and salute to every one of the thousands of you that were in here tonight. And again, to those of you who were a little bit put off by me just injecting maybe 25-minute rant about politics in a basketball live, I didn't do that without thinking about it 100 times. So I apologize, and I hope you'll bear with me as I shared my thoughts on that. Take care, guys. Bye.